Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Wild Questions podcast, presented by the RSPB. This is a podcast that's all about asking silly questions and getting serious answers. I'm your host Yaz, and I'm joined by my co-host Jamie. Each week we're going to bring on guests who ask the most absurd, silliest questions, and we go to the scientists and we ask them these questions, because this podcast is all about breaking down barriers in nature, in the world of nature, and it being okay to ask silly questions, ask the dumb questions, because there are serious answers out there. I think a good place to start is introducing ourselves, so you can get to know us a bit more and understand why we love nature and the silly, the fun, the serious, all the reasons that we are in love with our wonderful planet. Jamie, do you want to go first?
So in the 1980s and the early 90s, I was a member of the Young Ornithologist Club, which was then the young branch of the RSPB, and I absolutely loved it. And I also used to produce a wildlife magazine for family members, my grandparents in particular. So I've always had this love of birds and nature, and now I'm lucky enough to be the editor of the RSPB magazine, which is my dream job.
Jamie is a very professional and amazing person to work with, and I am a con. Jamie is the expert of this podcast, and I'll be turning to Jamie whenever I don't know things, because I'm a con. I worked in the music industry for many, many years, and then realised it was quite soul-crushing and joined the RSPB, and I look after the TikTok. I am Bird of the Week, unmasked. But I've always had a love for nature and saving the environment. Before doing social media, I was a journalist, and that's always in my blood, and I think it's always important to kind of convey messages to people of like what's going on in our world. And sometimes that can be a very serious conversation, and sometimes that can be a very fun conversation of, hey, did you know that this bird does this thing? No way, let's talk about it. But yeah, that's us. That's me. I'm Yaz. That's Jamie, and this is our podcast. So today we are speaking to Alice Boyd, who is a composer, a sound artist, an audio producer, and a lover of all things birds. But Alice, I feel like it's better if you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
So I make music, I make sound installations, I collect field recordings, and I also make a lot of radio and podcast shows. And the uniting theme of all of those things is my love for the environment and the natural world.
I love that. What got you into like loving nature? Is it something you've always kind of grown up with, or like was there any kind of pivotal thing that like made you get into loving nature?
So I was born in London, I was born in Brixton, but my parents moved out to Kent when I was maybe 3.5, so I had quite a countryside remote upbringing. And my mum works in the environmental sector, and my dad always loved music, so he was always encouraging us to play instruments, and he was sort of buying and selling synths on eBay kind of constantly. So those two loves came together quite, not naturally to begin with, to be fair, but my love for nature was definitely born out of just being very lucky enough to be immersed in it as a child. And I think as a child I didn't necessarily always appreciate it, but as I've grown older each year I'm just more and more in awe of it.
That's so wholesome. I love that. What kind of albums and music did you grow up listening to? Like, what are your like top artists that you grew up listening to?
My dad introduced me and my brothers to quite an eclectic mix of music. So we were actually born, I don't know if all of us were, but I know I was born to Brian Eno's ambient music for airports. So that sort of set the scene. And yeah, recently I actually met Brian Eno through a project that I've been doing with Earth%, which is this amazing organisation which is encouraging musicians to donate some of their royalties to conservation efforts. And Brian Eno actually founded it, so I met him, and I may have actually told him that I was born to his music, which I kind of was like, maybe that was a weird thing to say to him.
Hi, nice to meet you. I was born to your music.
I was born to your music.
I would be quite complimented by that.
The thing that he said is that I'm not the first person to say that, and apparently there are quite a lot of us out there, so his music's very relaxing.
Have you ever thought about if people would give birth to your music? That's full circle.
I aim for thousands of babies to be born to my music. That's like the ultimate goal.
That's a great intro to you. Hi, I'm Alice, and please give birth to my music.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let me know, send a picture, send a video.
So, Alice, we asked you to go away and think of the silliest questions that you could ever think of about birds, the world of nature, anything. And we went to our experts, actual scientists, actual people who've spent their entire life learning and studying birds and nature. And we asked them your silly questions, and we have answers for you.
And we're incredibly grateful to our wonderful experts, Dave Sexton and the fact-checking team, who are the experts on this one. They've given us some fantastic facts, so I'm really looking forward to this.
Yes, we can't go on without giving them a shout out. They keep this podcast going because I know nothing. So we have a wonderful team of people who help us every time we record to inform us on this stuff. But Alice, would you like to ask us your first question?
Yeah. Should I give a little context into why I've chosen this specific bird that it focuses on? So I've been working with the RSPB on a film that is coming out soon, may have already come out by the time the podcast is out, about white-tailed eagles and the return of the white-tailed eagles in the last 50 years. So they went extinct around, I think it was around 250 years ago, in the UK, I should say. And over the last 50 years, they have made a return, which is amazing, thanks to the efforts of different conservationists. So I went on a field recording trip to Pulborough Brooks, the RSPB site in West Sussex, I believe, to try and record the bird. We sat there for hours. The one time it did call, I wasn't recording, which I immediately regretted, and we sat there for another 2 hours waiting for the eagle to call. It didn't happen, but we saw it from a distance, and it's the largest bird of prey, and it was just huge on this tree in the distance. And then I've written a song which is going to be at the end of the film, and it'll be out on Spotify and all the various places. But yeah, it felt like a very good topic to ask some silly questions about, because the white-tailed eagle is a bird of prey that I've only just really learnt about and through this project. So it would be nice to know a bit more about it.
Yeah, I have learned quite a bit about the white-tailed eagle in the past year of working for the RSPB doing our TikTok, because I make a lot of jokes about birds of sleigh. They're not birds of prey, they're birds of sleigh. And I feel like a white-tailed eagle could diva out with me. I feel like it would wear cute acrylics, have its little brat purse. I feel like I just want to play a white-tailed eagle Brat by Charlie XCX. I want to know what it thinks. But in that time frame, I've learned that they're actually really beautiful and majestic. And my favourite fact about all birds of prey is that the females are usually bigger than the males, which I love. Hashtag feminism. But yeah, I love white-tailed eagles. They're so majestic. They're so beautiful. And I'm in the group of people who is delusional. And I'm like, I could definitely hug it. Like, I could definitely just give it a big cuddle. And I want to cuddle it, but I know I shouldn't. And I wouldn't. I would never do that. But I do want to cuddle it. Like, emotionally, I feel quite attached to it now.
No, I do too. And I think just seeing it, looking over that landscape and just knowing that it had been hunted to extinction, I believe that was the main driver of why it disappeared from the UK. And I think to see it just looking over the landscape and in this tree and just sitting there for hours, it just felt like this is an animal that should be there and just completely makes sense. It was so nice to see it there.
Yeah, it's wholesome, isn't it?
Should I ask my first question?
Please do. I'm excited. Go for it.
I'm a musician, so I want to know, if white-tailed eagles secretly had their own underground music scene, what genre would they be into and why?
That is such a good question.
It's a good one. It's a good one. And when we think of white-tailed eagles, especially the ones that you see up in parts of northern Scotland, they're often seen on rocky outcrops, because they're on the coast a lot of the time. They're looking for fish in the sea, so they sit on these rocky outcrops. So we've concluded that they'd be heavily into rock music, probably American rock, in solidarity with their American cousins, bald eagles, and of course they'd be massively into the eagles and would enjoy gazing out to the far horizon while listening to Tequila Sunrise.
Nice.
Amazing. I would love to play like Def Leppard or like Pink Floyd for a white-tailed eagle. I would be the worst person to go to a reserve, because I'd just start blasting that and going, guys, it's the white-tailed eagles. It would ruin the vibe. But like, I think we should start playing white-tailed eagles rock music. I think that's the next move.
Yeah, because I feel like I had quite a different experience with the white-tailed eagle, because it was literally just sitting there for hours. And since that, I've seen some footage of it kind of in flight and grabbing fish out of the water and things like that. And you do see the slightly more, maybe the rock side of the eagle. But they also look quite almost clumsy in the air, like their bodies are just sort of swinging backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And they almost look like, I don't know, maybe the teenage rockers or something. Perhaps.
Yeah, like a teenage dirtbag. That would be a good song. That would be a good song. We're on that level. I like that. Right, Alice, your next question.
My next question is, what does the world sound like from the perspective of a white-tailed eagle?
This is a really good question because I've always thought about like what do birds hear and how do they hear it?
So this would depend very much where the eagle was. For some white-tailed eagles, the world would sound really, really polluted by traffic noise and ferries and RAF jets and anything that sort of human-made that's going through its sort of aerial world. But then when you think about those birds in remote areas, it would be really calm and peaceful. You get the sound of waves crashing against the rocks. You'd hear the water lapping on a quieter, calmer day. You'd hear seabirds calling, rain falling, the wind blowing. It makes me think of those kind of really wilder places that you would currently expect to see them. So it could be quite a calming experience.
Yeah, that makes me think of, there's a project I did last year. It was a radio program for BBC Radio 4 called Shifting Soundscapes, and I revisited 3 locations that a field recordist called Martin Stewart, who's now in his 70s, that he recorded in 50 years ago, and to hear just how much those ecosystems had changed. And so a huge part of my work, I think, just with going out field recording, has been this like awareness of just how noisy the world is and how far you have to travel in the UK to get anywhere where you're not constantly having a plane overhead or a car nearby. So it was interesting, like visiting Poulborough Brooks, which is closer to the flight path, and I imagine it was a totally different experience for the filming team they went up to Scotland, and just those different environments and how the birds, like the eagles, are settling in these very different spaces.
Yeah, we actually got someone on our team to make a mix of a calm mix and a noisy mix of what white-tailed eagles hear. So I'm going to share that now.
Oh, yeah.
This is what a white-tailed eagle would hear in a calm day. Nice, very serene, very calming. Very nice. I could fall asleep to that. That's like white noise music that I would like put on when I'm ready to sleep. And then this is what they hear on a noisy day. So there's a good mix there, but also I feel like that second one would overwhelm me. Like I would feel overstimulated. So I don't know how white-tailed eagles do it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that recently because I was camping and I was, again, field recording and capturing the sound of loads of different bird species in a rewilding site, and just camping outside and realising like, oh yeah, there's just this constant hum of human sound. I know this is meant to be a fun podcast, but it is something that is just so present in how I think about the world just through my work and just like all the sounds we hear. And I was just thinking, oh God, I was recording nightingales and just thinking about, at 10 p.m. they are maybe the only bird singing, but there was just this constant hum of the flight path overhead, and I was like,
You're right. Humans are loud as hell. Like sometimes we should just shut up. I normalize it. I remember when lockdown happened and everyone was inside, and it was just so quiet and so serene, and I've never felt more cemented that as a society, we as humans should just shut up. We should just shut up and go inside and let the birds do their thing, because as soon as you like really listen in, most like of the bird sounds that you hear in like urban cities and urban spaces and stuff is just human sounds in the background. It's like, guys, shh.
Yeah, such a tricky thing because obviously I was talking to, you know, Nadine Pereira, the bird watcher. He's done a lot of stuff with the RSPB.
We know Nadine.
I interviewed him recently for a podcast, and he was saying just how he's really trying to encourage that thing of, I guess, like building an awareness for the natural world, not only in rural spaces, but also urban spaces, and how one doesn't need to exclude the other, which I think is so true. And I think it's that really hard balance between wanting there to be less, I don't know, disruption to wildlife, but also wanting there to be that balance between humans and wildlife, and building like positive relationships between the two.
No, that's a really good point. Shall we go into your next question?
Yes, my next question. Would an eagle recognize the sound of its own wings the way we recognize our own footsteps, or the wings of another like we might recognize the footsteps of a loved one?
This is interesting. Have you ever had that, like, where, I don't know, if you lived in like a family home and someone was walking up the stairs, you could tell who it was based on their footsteps? I think this all the time. I'm like, I know if my brother's coming into the house because he stomps quite loudly versus like my mum, who's very delicate. And I wonder if eagles think the same thing, where like, I don't know, like the eagle dad would like swoop its wings very dramatically, or like a little eagle baby would just be like flapping its tiny little wings. Like, I wonder. Jamie, what did our experts say?
My first thought before we even went to the experts was, eagles are obviously different sizes, and when they grow to maturity, they're sort of standard size. But you're always going to get, the odd feather missing, the odd bit of damage, the odd bit of, something's regrowing, something's not quite there. So there must be real kind of subtleties. But what our experts said was quite interesting. They say they would probably recognise the wing beats of a mate coming into land. So the person that gave us the answer here said that I've seen them coming to roost in near darkness, and they seem to know that it's their partner arriving next to them for the night. So there's quite a comforting, the gentle flapping of the wings settling next to you.
That's so cute. Never settle for less. If an eagle can recognise the sound of its partner flapping, ladies, raise the bar, okay? Let's do better. I think it's really cute that, like, they know when their mate is flapping next to them. That's so wholesome. Stop it. Guys, this is really cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was a really wholesome answer. Alice, how do you feel?
I think that is lovely. I think, it's interesting, I guess, sort of speculating how an eagle experiences things like sound or like their loved ones. But it's really lovely to know that there has been, someone has actually observed the eagles recognizing each other, even in the dark.
No, it's cute. I wonder if eagles, like, like, this is such a weird tangent, but stay with me. If you're in bed with someone you love, like your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, and they're snoring really loud, I wonder if birds are also like, you're snoring really loud and it's waking me up. Like, do birds have the capacity to snore? And B, would someone be like, you're literally waking me up, go away? Or like, if they were flapping their wings really loud, do you think their partner's like, no, stop it, and flaps them away?
Probably. I think so. They probably get a bit annoyed with each other sometimes.
I think they have a capacity for annoyance. I mean, if you see something like a flock of starlings roosting for the night in winter, and they're jostling for space and pecking at each other and all trying to get the prime spot, I'm sure they get wound up if one of them intrudes on another one's space. So you can imagine that with birds as well, can't you? That even a pair in a nest would be like, no, I want that twig pulled over me. Still the duvet kind of thing.
I'm just imagining now, I'll be listening out in nature thinking, oh, those are beautiful bird sounds, not realising it's like a mating couple having a dispute, going, stop snoring so loudly. You're literally disrupting me. I'm trying to sleep. And I'm like, wow, nature's so beautiful. Alice, would you like to ask your next question?
Yeah, my next question is, do white-tailed eagles dance? And when they do they get motion sickness? And if not, why don't they get motion sickness?
This is such a good question, because I get motion sickness being in a car. So I'm like, how do eagles fly in the sky and like actually do backflips and stuff and not get an upset tummy? And I don't know if it's just because I have raging IBS, or like if it's just like in general, but No, Jamie went to our experts with this, and they came back with some really good answers. Jamie, please explain.
I love this question because they do dance. They have some fancy dance moves when they're performing their courtship flight. So this is all done in the air. So parallel flying, so flying along together, talon touching. How lovely is that?
Oh,
360-degree rolls, a bit of hang gliding with their legs down. But the best bit of this dance is the famous talon grappling routine. So they lock talons with each other and they cartwheel downwards through the air, locked together. And they just part at the last moment, presumably before they smash into the rocks. Um, Motion sickness, no. They have inbuilt stabilizers that mean they don't get queasy during those moves.
now my question is, how do they know that? How do they know they have internal stabilizers?
I imagine that's years of observation. I don't think anyone's ever seen a bird looking queasy. I mean, I have heard of birds looking drunk, but that's waxwings, and that's waxwings for you, eating fermented fruit in winter and falling out of the tree and laying on their backs on the ground with their legs kicking in the air.
Love that.
They don't get hangovers though. But do birds get? I don't think birds that have evolved to do those kind of over the top dance moves in the air. I don't think they would. Otherwise, hopefully they would think not
But
to do
that
it.
makes me think that at one point they were getting motion sickness and had to evolve not to get motion sickness because they were spinning so much in the air that they were like, guys, I need to take like a 5 minute break. Like, you go on without me. I'm gonna go sit down and like take something to settle my tummy.
Oh, I wish I had that fish.
Yeah, that really upset my tummy.
Is it the opposite? Have we evolved to develop motion sickness?
It's such a weakness for us. I wish I didn't have motion sickness. Do you know how embarrassing it is to be like, sorry, can you stop the Uber? I need to sit down for 5 minutes. Like, I have to walk everywhere or get the bus because I can't get like taxis or stuff. It'll make me feel really sick, which I think is so embarrassing.
Luckily, this is not a problem for the eagle.
Okay, Alice, would you like to ask another question?
Yeah. Do white-tailed eagles have a secret language?
This is a good question. I feel like maybe because people always have those conspiracy theories that like pigeons aren't real and they're like actually spies.
Yeah.
I can confirm that pigeons are very real and they are not spies. They are real birds. They're not secretly robots on the inside. But I do wonder if birds have their own secret language because all animals do. Like people communicate in different languages. So white-tailed eagles, Jamie, white-tailed eagles must have their own kind of language, their own slang.
They do. They have a vocabulary. I think they are some of the most vocal birds, and they're always calling to each other, shouting at intruders. We can only imagine what, and sometimes calling for just no good reason. But we have no idea what they're saying as mere humans. Some of it is courtship and the language of love, and they probably don't have very nice things to say about what humans have done to them over the centuries. But we'll never know because it's a secret.
This is making me go, oh, why didn't I manage to record it? If they're that vocal, they were clearly on that day just like, nope, it's a secret language. Can't get it on tape.
They were being shy. I love that they'll just randomly scream for no reason. Valid and true to me, honestly. What did it sound like when you heard it, Alice? When you heard the white-tailed eagle call out?
It was quite a strange experience because I think we were kind of chatting because we'd been there for quite a while, so we just had turned to each other and were just having a quick chat, as in me and the rest of the team. And then we heard it, but we almost didn't register it until after it had happened. And Mark Fountain, who worked at the RSPB, he was like, that was it. And I was like, what? No, you gotta be kidding me. Because I'd paused the recorder. And yeah, it sounded something, in my memory at least, it sounded between kind of like an eagle call, kind of like a seagull call. Like it didn't have that classic call that you think of when you think of an eagle, at least in my memory. So yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, it was not anticlimactic's not the right word, but it was just like it happened and we missed it, and then suddenly like you recall it in your memory from like the moment before.
You have that oh no realization.
Yeah,
You're like, oh my god, guys, we missed it.
Yeah.
I think they sound quite interesting. I didn't expect them to sound the way that they do. They have really high pitched screams, which is weird because I was expecting this big like grrr, but instead they're just like but like that's a really terrible impression. I'm so sorry. That was a bad impression.
No, you do it again and I'll record it and then I can put it in the soundtrack of the film.
I've got you. Right, we'll do one more question. So do you want to pick one more question of the ones that you asked?
Yes. Yeah.
Hard, I
Let me
know,
have a
but
quick look.
Do white-tailed eagles ever swap objects with each other like a barter system for better twigs?
like Vinted, but for
Yeah.
white-tailed eagles.
Yeah. I want to know.
They're just on Depop going, hey, just found this like piece of fish, £5, postage included. I love that. Jamie.
Do they? Well, that's a it's a fairly random question, but it's one we should definitely consider. They don't really play swapsies, but they're very good at outright theft. They like to steal food off others, like fish off otters, mackerel from gannets, and yeah, it goes by the fancy name of kleptoparasitism, which you see in quite a few species. So
that's so
you definitely
funny.
see that in gulls as well. Yeah, I know. I was surprised at that.
Not the daylight robbery. I like that there's a whole name for it because it happens so much that they're like, we need a name for the times when white-tailed eagles steal. Not the otters. I'm just imagining these tiny little otters holding their food and some white-tailed eagle goes, pew, no, that's mine. Nice try. That's so funny. They're like the modern day Hamburglar. That's crazy. Guys, white-tailed eagles are so silly. Like, I love that people are like, oh, they're really strong, scary birds. And I'm like, no, they're thieves. They're literally thieves. Love them, but they are robbing in broad daylight. I'm so sorry that they don't have a barter system, Alice. What were you imagining in your head when you thought about that?
I feel like I wanted to know if they trade, basically, and if they have a complex trading network. That's all I wanted to know.
Probably not.
Well, there you go.
Oh, sorry, they don't have their own currency or anything. They just take. But that's fair enough. I feel like I would let a white-tailed eagle take my food. I'd be like, okay, what am I really gonna do? Fight you? No. Well, you know what, Alice? I've had so much fun talking to you. It has been such a joy. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you've learned, actually, throughout this entire podcast that's really going to stick with you? Are you going to go home with anything and be like, wow, that's a really crazy thing that birds do?
Just thinking about how the eagles hear and how they recognise their loved one's wings, like that's really lovely. And I think I'll probably, after this, go listen to some rock music, I think, in honour of the white-tailed eagle.
I love that. Right, well, Alice, where is the best place that we can find you on social media and in the world?
So I'm on social media at Alice Boyd Music, and I've got my music on Spotify, Apple Music, all the various places. I also have a website, www.aliceboyd.info, which has a lot of both my music but also my audio work, so various radio shows and podcasts that I've made and either presented or produced. And yeah, that's it. But yeah, I'm Alice Boyd, and that's my name.
Once again, thank you so much for listening to the first episode of the Wild Questions podcast. There will be more to come, so keep an eye out each week for new episodes coming out. To sign up for Notes on Nature, it's at rspb.org.uk/notes on nature. Once again, thank you so much, and stay tuned for a new episode.